Hello, I'm Bob from Bob's Workshop. I'm standing in front of an ice cream store that's currently closed. They might also sell gelato, but the reason I'm here is because I'd like to show you in this video how I made a little gelato store for my train layout. Here it is, and I hope you like it. In an earlier video, I showed how I used XPS foam insulation to fill in the spaces between the tracks on my O-scale Lionel layout. That rigid pink foam is very easy to cut, shape, and paint. It's also relatively cheap. This project has been really inexpensive because I found a pile of this stuff being thrown away in a garbage can. I do like free stuff. I'm also fortunate to have a frame shop near my house, and they often discard mat board, foam core, cardboard shipping tubes, and even occasionally old picture frames. So I visit their dumpster too. It's always a thrill to me when I find something useful that someone else has thrown away. Today, I'd like to show you how I put some of those materials together to make a 1/48 scale medieval European shop for my layout. Hot glue forms a very quick and strong bond between foam core and cardboard. I like using it for some of the larger parts that form the basic shapes, but I'll be using carpenter's wood glue for these wooden trim pieces, which, by the way, are not balsa wood, but thin strips of pine that I cut from scraps of 2x4s at my table saw. It's another way to keep costs low and to reuse materials that would otherwise be thrown away or end up in a fireplace. Most of the building's construction up to this point was done with foam core, cardboard, and those thin strips of wood, which are all pretty cheap. To make the windows though, a door and 2 signs, I'll be using sheet plastic from my local hobby shop. A 3D printer could crank out these windows pretty quickly, and they'd all be of a consistent and uniform size. That would be nice. But I grew up making models of tanks and airplanes, so I still like working with plastic. A 3D printed window or door could probably also have greater detail, but I think these are still decently good at this scale. I assemble these pieces on a sheet of glass so that they'll be flat and squared up. Another benefit, though, is that the plastic solvent cement really bonds the plastic together while not sticking permanently to the glass. I would also like to include 2 signs for this build, both of which will be lighted from within. So I'm making a little box, 2 actually, that will fit within the walls and have a few 12-volt LEDs to provide illumination from inside. Here's a general idea of what they'll be, and I'll show the actual signage and lighting a little bit later. The construction is nearly the same as what I did with the windows. Cutting and gluing the little foam blocks as well as the roofing tiles is fairly time consuming. It probably took me at least a couple of hours, but I enjoy the process. It's both relaxing and rewarding, like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. A coat of matte finish Mod Podge to the mat board tiles and the foam blocks will make both materials a little bit tougher, and it's also a good base for painting later on. A hot wire table is what I used to make all of the tower's foam blocks, and with an attachment, I can also make circles and even cones. In these videos, I show some of the paint colors that I'm using as I go, but very few go on as they come straight from the bottle. There's almost always a mixing and blending of lighter or darker shades. I like the general idea of the Department 56 ceramic buildings on layouts. I used them myself for years, and I still have quite a few. But at this point, I'm aiming for just a bit more realism. My buildings aren't especially detailed. They lack gutters and door handles most of the time, but I'm still usually fairly happy with how they turn out. This green would be a little much all on its own, but used sparingly during dry brushing, it brings out the edges of the tile shingles. Plus, it's a flat finish paint, so when it dries, it won't stand out as much. Most of the base colors are down, so as far as painting goes, it's mostly just washes and more dry brushing from here on out. Well, after I spray paint these windows, a door, and the signs. I used my computer to whip up a couple of signs and printed them onto white inkjet decal paper. I sealed them with a clear matte finish spray from Rust-Oleum, and now they can go on pretty much just like any other decal. I always print a few extra in case I mess up during the decal's installation. The white decal paper over the clear plastic should let plenty of light show through. So, I think too much light is showing through. The 3 LEDs actually look more pronounced on screen than they do in real life to the naked eye, but I wish the light they made was more diffused. I'll leave it for now, but maybe an idea will come to me later to improve the appearance. The windows and signs fit just snugly enough that they'll stay in place but still be removable down the road. I tested these all before I painted them, and with the additional thickness of the craft paint on the building, well, they're not going to fall out or in, unless I want to take them out. Gutters and downspouts would be nice elements to add, but I haven't exactly figured out how to make the U-shaped channel from sheet plastic. And unless you're looking for them, you don't really notice that they're missing. And it's the finishing touches that usually keep me from saying a project is 100% done. In a lot of areas within my life, close enough or functional, or at least working again, is oftentimes where I stop. With maybe only half of the room's lights turned on, to my eyes at least, it looked okay. But through my phone's camera, it's extremely washed out. There's definitely room for improvement. The LEDs behind the curtains, though, I think that looks pretty good. It's a nice warm light, mainly because it's illuminated through the tan and brown of the curtains, which made me think about putting something similar inside the signs. I may fix this, or I may leave it as it is. But I will do more of this style of signage in the future, and the next one will be better. My daughter has a Cricut machine which can cut out lettering onto adhesive vinyl, and I think that could be a solution, as well as switching to a frosted plastic instead of the clear plastic. Those two changes could make a big difference. So, until next time, why don't you go treat yourself and someone you care about to a scoop of ice cream or some gelato? Right now, though, Millie and I could use a nap. Take care.